It is 7:17. We're going to call the meeting to order. All right, first we'll do the flag salute. Aren't they coming in? No. Oh. Okay. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right, roll call.
Okay, Ms. Bullenbacher.
Here.
Mr. Chandler.
Here.
Mr. Bryant. Mr. Oliverio.
Here.
Mr. Rodilla.
Here.
Here. Solicitor Corbel.
Here.
And Engineer Alberto is standing in place for it. Here. And myself.
Okay. And
I'm here.
Oh,
Didn't hear my name, but I'm here.
I'm sorry. Ms. Costello. Didn't just check you off, sorry.
all right. Okay, the consent agenda. The council meeting minutes from March 23rd, along with the bill list from March 23rd. This would be ratifying that list, and the bill list for April 13th, which is today's meeting. So motion to approve the April 13th, 2023 consent agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Chandler,
Second.
Ms. Compitello, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Public comments on agenda items. At this time, citizens may address the Crafton Borough Council on any issue appearing on today's agenda. Only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Crafton will be permitted to address the council. Comments on non-agenda items will be taken at the end of tonight's meeting. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before council, who may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Please state your name and physical address for the record. So, do we have any? Nobody signed in? All right, anybody on Zoom, just raise your hand. Okay. All right, the first item is the president's report. The only thing to report is that we have the ALOM conference occurring tomorrow and Saturday in Seven Springs, and that is Allegheny League of Municipalities. And at that point, it's lots of education. Mr. Corbel will be speaking twice, maybe, not like last year. And are you going to be there, Alberto? No, but Rick will be there in Gateway Engineers. Ms. Bollenbacher, Mr. Price, and myself will all be attending for that educational stuff. All right. Mayor's report.
Nothing tonight.
Okay. Engineers report. Okay. Solicitors report.
Nothing to report.
Executive sessions.
Yeah, we can't say that. We did hold an executive session prior to the meeting to discuss personnel matters, and we'll have one following the meeting on the same topic.
Managers report.
All right, thank you. First thing, we received a request for a fence at the sled riding hill. I sent everyone on council a memo about this on April 4th. It was simply a request to put up a fence across the street from the sled riding hill because there is basically a 30 or 40-foot cliff directly after that. Solicitor Corbel and I looked into it where we're liable and what is the best practice in a situation like this. And since it's across the street and behind a guardrail, thank you, a guardrail already, we suggest that we install two signs essentially saying that there's a fall hazard there, just to let people know that it's there. We've never had an incident that I know of anybody falling there, but I think that's a good way to just bring attention to it in case a child gets away and runs that way. The kid, parents will know that there's a situation there, as opposed to putting up a fence, which is I think is probably overkill in that situation. So I just wanted to have a motion to authorize me to authorize the borough manager to have a falling hazard sign installed on the borough owned property across from Crafton Boulevard from the sled riding hill in Crafton Park.
So moved. Second.
Right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
All right, thank you. And the next thing was just an informative note. We've had some calls about Airbnbs that were full house Airbnbs that were put in residential districts. And we looked into some of the issues around that, and there was actually a Pennsylvania Supreme Court case in 2019 that if you don't specifically call out a use, it is not permitted in that district. And Airbnbs being a new thing, really hadn't been handled until that time. So now we're treating any Airbnb that's a full house Airbnb in an R1 or R2 district as not allowed. So we will, and we only have 2 in the borough right now, and they either have or will be receiving zoning notices about that. And I just wanted to inform folks, and also just note that we are going through a zoning update. And we should be considering this when it comes to that, so that we can specifically either allow it or not allow it, or have some conditions around it if we do want to allow certain types of Airbnbs, since this is a new thing in the last 5 to 10 years.
How many
Is there-
Airbnbs? So how many Airbnbs are there currently? Do we know?
The season has done some fair amount of research. Look, she regularly looks at Airbnb to see. I think we're at around 12 Airbnbs. Only those 2 are whole house. One of them is actually permitted with no question because it's in a commercial district. And the other ones are all 1-bedroom Airbnbs, and it gets a little murkier what the rules are around that, because you are allowed to have a no impact home business, and you can use a certain amount of your, 20% up to 20% of your house for that. So we haven't decided to do anything with that, especially since we're having a zoning update within the next 7 or 8 months, completed. So, yeah.
So Jim, did you say 2 are whole house?
That's
So,
correct.
so 2 that will be getting the zoning notice because they don't fall into that potential
That's
side
correct.
home business.
Right. And one was brand new, and we caught it before it actually went online. And so we were able to notify them when they were actually applying for their zoning. The other one has been renting for the last year or 2 and has caused issues on the street where they're at.
Is there not some Pennsylvania state law policies regarding Airbnb specifically?
There's
Can you
Supreme
update
Court
us
case.
on that state?
Yeah, it's called the Slice of Life case, which was the LLC name of the Airbnb in the Poconos, I believe. And basically the Supreme Court determined that the short-term rental are commercial in nature, and they do not jive with a residential use. So unless your ordinance specifically permits that commercial use, you can't, they're not permitted in residential districts. So that's what we're relying on. And that's, I assume, when your new ordinance is being constructed, that's the way it will look. Unless, of course, you would like to have certain that use, which you could, but without regulating it in some fashion, it would default to the state law. And our ordinance is actually really clear on the commercial side of things, that those things aren't permitted in the residential districts, other than sort of the no impact home-based businesses. So we're in pretty good shape to enforce this, as far as I'm concerned. Jim is right around rooms for rent. That's a little different. I think that those are probably okay. But that can be something that you address in your zoning update, if you would like to address that in some fashion. So.
What are some of the complaints that have been received?
Mainly parking issues when you, because people will have more than one vehicle there. Both of them are on streets that are not great for parking. I mean, that's pretty typical in Crafton. But that has been the main issue. I'm not aware that there's been disturbances, but that would be a question for the chief, or Susan might know of more than that. Yeah, it is. It is very common, and we've heard this from other municipal managers, that people have parties in them. And that's when they become a serious issue. Yeah. It may have, but I don't know. So. Any other questions on that? I just wanted to make sure you all had an update.
So I do have a question on the percentage of home use. You mentioned 20. I thought that it was 50.
I would have to go back and look.
I have
I'm
read
not
it in the
100.
past, so.
Okay, yeah, you might be right. I just was
But,
going off the top
I
of my head.
could have forgotten, so I'd like to just get that clarified at some point.
Yeah, I will clarify that. Yeah. Okay, I'm moving on to the next thing on the report. It's not actually on this agenda, but I just wanted to update folks about the stop sign ordinance from the last time. We did pass a stop sign ordinance 3 weeks ago, adding stop signs. The PA1 calls have gone out and those will be installed by next week. So you'll see those around town. And when we place a new stop sign, we put flashing lights on it to make it more obvious, since you're changing the traffic pattern. So someone who's driven down that street every day of their life doesn't just blow right through it. So that we can warn people of that existence.
And can I
So-
mention the Bradford one that council approved a couple months ago? I've heard extremely positive feedback from that, the addition of that stop sign there. So that's something as we consider these things going forward.
So the one that's going to go on Stotts, I think a separate signage, you and I have talked about the possibility of putting the crosswalk stationary that's not in the middle of the street.
Yes, and we're actually looking into, this summer, we're still working on getting a intern. We didn't get our first 3 interns that we tried to get. We want to actually catalog all of the crosswalks. And I don't know if you've had conversations with Alberto, engineer Alberto, with Doug, but we have talked about making sure that we're putting them in the right places from a legality standpoint, and the right from a safety standpoint. Because in the past, we've been made aware that sometimes we just put wherever someone wanted one, and sometimes that's not the safest space. So we're making sure that when we do that, we have a process through which to analyze it. But yes, we're looking into that one too. Yes. Moving on to the disposition resolution. This is a resolution to confirm that we're old documents are being disposed of according to the state retention policy. So I'm looking for a motion to approve resolution 2023-08 for the disposition of dated borough documents, and that will complete the disposition of documents, old documents.
So moved.
Mr.
Second.
Chandler? Oh, Ms. Bolenbacher seconds. Any discussion? All of the items were on the resolution on the OneDrive. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Great, thank you. We received a SHACOG joint bid for O&M CCTV inspections and cleaning for year 13. The bids were received and opened on March 28th. It is recommended the contract will be awarded to the lowest responsible bidder, which in this case is Robinson Pipe Cleaning Company, in the amount of $281,395. The contract will be between SHACOG and the successful low bidder. Although SHACOG is the official contracting entity, since this activity is being undertaken on behalf of municipalities participating in the program, it will not undertake this obligation without the concurrence of those municipalities. Crafton's estimated share of the bid for the project is $64,885. And I'm looking for a motion to authorize the borough manager to send a concurrence letter to SHACOG for them to enter into the contract with Robinson Pipe Cleaning Company in the amount of $281,395 for the CCTV inspections and cleaning year 13.
So moved.
Ms. Compatello,
Second.
Ms. Bolenbacher, any discussion?
Can I just ask a little bit more detail about what the contractor will be doing? What does that cover, the CCTV inspections and cleaning?
Actually, I don't know if you can cover that better than I can, Alberto.
When I spoke to Rick, he just said this is part of the O&M plan, but I believe it's just CCTVing, 10% of your lines and then seeing what's faulty and then putting them for repair for the following year. So making the recommendation, so.
So
And it
is
could
that
be,
all in the sewer system, do you mean?
yeah. Like 10, I believe it's every year they do 10% of your system, 10% of your lines to get televised and then repairs are recommended, so.
Are we already budgeted for this?
Yes, this is in the budget, yeah.
Mhm. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. And then the last item I have here is another contract. The rock salt, the first year option year, the contract continues under the same terms and conditions with only the price subject to an adjustment. The price may be adjusted by the CPI formula in the contract. By way of example, the formula would accommodate a 1.5% increase. So that percentage was to prevail. The price would go from $88.96, which was the initial bid price, not altered by fuel price adjustments, per ton to $90.15 per ton. And I'm looking for a motion to exercise the first option year rock salt contract between Crafton Borough and Cargill Incorporated.
So moved.
Mr. Chandler,
Second.
Ms. Compatello? Discussion? I have a question. Was this a 3-year contract which has expired and now we're into an option year?
I'm almost certain that's true, but I actually do not know the answer to that. So I'll have to find out for you to reaffirm that.
And have we used all the salt that we had for this year? I mean, we had a very light winter. So do we buy by usage?
We do. We do have plenty of salt left over from last year, but we have just enough capacity to take this salt. So we may not have to buy any salt in the next year if we don't need it. I think we used about 125 tons this year, down from 550. So we are in the 375 range with what we have left, 425 what we have left, and we have room for about 850 tons. So we should have enough room it'll be tight, but it'll be fill all of our space. And then we'll have, moving forward, we'll have it. Or moving forward, we might not have to buy next year.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
And that ends my report.
Great, thank you. Standing committee reports. First is Finance and Administration, Ms. Perry.
Our next meeting is next week,
Tuesday.
so we don't have any new business to discuss or updates.
All right, and as a reminder, tax day is next Tuesday. So borough taxes, if you have to pay or file them, they are due on Tuesday. Community services and infrastructure, Ms. Compatello.
Okay, well, we have a Broadhead separation project update. Today it'll be light because our major update is that Gateway will be doing a more in-depth detailed presentation about that project to council and anyone who wants to attend the council meeting at our meeting on Thursday, May 11th. So we've been speaking about this project and we received less funding from Alcosan last year than we had hoped. So we have been pursuing additional grant funding, are hopeful that we will get some. We have already gotten some, but in the meantime, Gateway has also been assessing various different options for where we can reduce the scope and potentially get cost savings. So they have been working through different possible approaches with the engineering committee. And at that May 11th meeting, they will come with some different price point options that we can talk about how we've gotten the price down to what we currently have. So we'll have a more detailed update at that May 11th meeting.
I just want to let you guys know that I had a meeting with one of the other engineers in our office who does a lot of P&G pipeline replacement projects. And they're actually North Linwood Culture Park and North Emily, there's plans to replace the gas lines through there, some of the bare steel bare lines.
Oh,
So I'll have a meeting with you and with Doug to go over, but I mean, it's pretty substantial. I mean, a lot of the some of the gas line runs all the way down the sidewalk. So they you know, on the last project we did, yeah, on the last one we did, they paid for some of the restoration work. There's also lines that run right down the middle of the road or on the side of the road. So they'd be, you know, responsible for paying for half or all of the repaving of the road. So we'll be able to quantify that and work together. And I mean, the last time we did it, they were very willing to work with us. So we'll set up a meeting with them and with you guys and go over some of the numbers and some of the quantities that they can help out with. So it could be a couple $100,000 worth of money that they would pay for.
Well, that's even better because we were getting towards a good options that were going to allow us to do a pretty good job of replacing and resurfacing a lot of the roads in that Broadhead area. But we can add a little bit more cost sharing, then we can hopefully get even more covered. So the next update is that the Crafton ARPA H2O grant resolution. DCED requested that we update the resolution we passed in December of 2022 to support our application to DCED for an ARPA H2O grant for the Broadhead separation project in the amount of $4,895,269. So we have a motion to approve. Perhaps before I continue on, is there any added context to why they want us to update? Do you want to fill in a little bit of that background?
Sure. Mainly it was because of the calculations that we had done. There were, they wouldn't, you know, I'm trying to remember the exact details. They basically are asking us to ask for $1 million more than we were originally going to ask for, because of the way they do their calculations. And so it's mainly just a way of some of the things that we had initially asked for, they wouldn't cover, but other things they would. So they're updating the amount so that it fits in with their metric on how they do. Is that, yep.
So we've already requested funds and we've already submitted this resolution, but we haven't updated. We can increase the amount and they've asked us to update our resolution to match the new amount of funds. So that's the motion that I'm making to approve resolution 2023-09, requesting a grant of $4,895,269 from Commonwealth Financing Authority for the Broadhead Sewer Separation Project. And this will replace resolution 2022-31 passed on December 8th, 2022.
So moved.
Mr. Chandler, Ms. Bolenbacher seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
The 2023 road paving update. We've spoken about this in council. We have been working with the engineer to identify, we have a 5-year road paving plan and we are several years into it. And so they have identified the next roads that are most in need. We had talked about that in council, I believe 2 meetings ago. So this is just an update. The engineers have finished up that analysis and put together the bid RFP. So that road paving bid RFP has been sent out. The bid opening will occur on April 27th. And then once we get responses to that back in, this will come back before council with final bids and final numbers associated with those. And the intent is for council to see those and be set to award the contract on May 11th, 2023. Have any questions on that? Union Avenue reconstruction. Union Avenue will be reconstructed from Steuben Street north to Cross Street. This will include the intersection at Union Avenue at Cross Street. This work is scheduled to commence on Monday, April 24th, and will take approximately 6 weeks to complete. The contractor will start on the northern half of Union Avenue, and the southern portion will follow about 3 weeks later. Notices were posted to all residents of Union, Noble, and Oregon Avenues on April 4th, and a public open house was held yesterday. If you need any further information, please contact the administrative office. And is there anyone who would like to give details on how that meeting went yesterday?
Thought it went extremely well. Did not have a single complaint that I can think of, really. I think everything was very positive. Some future concerns of speeding were definitely brought up. I can assure you that will happen because it happens now and the street is a mess. So, but we just, informed the residents that the goal is to look into different ways to help alleviate that issue once it's taken care of, once the paving is done. And there is an option of what we're going to be starting ahead of time to try and track the amount of people that are speeding down the street ahead of time before they even start the reconstruction. So, but all in all, everything went very well. We had a pretty decent turnout. I'd say probably at least 25% of the street was here, if not more. So everybody was very pleased with, I felt everybody was very pleased with the response.
Yeah, I would agree. I would, they were planning a block party by the end of it. So it was a pretty friendly group. And we are placing, to add to what Colton said, we are placing we do have new speed trackers. We have 2 of them that were recently purchased. So they're those ones that show what speed you're going, they flash, but they actually track the vehicles that pass as well. So we'll have, and we're putting it up this week or early next week on Union so that we'll capture initial data so that we'll know how fast people are going next week and then see what happens after the fact when it's a beautifully paved new road.
Yeah, so that work is scheduled to start on April 24th. And we know no one likes living on a street that's under construction, but there's been a lot of effort to try to make that go as easily as possible and to phase it so that the whole street doesn't have to be closed the entire time and people are still able to get into their homes for at least part of that. So there was a lot of thought that was put into trying to phase that. And again, that public meeting went well. And if anyone missed that or has further questions, please contact the administrative office. The Crafton Boulevard Streetscape Phase 2, the light installation should be completed by the end of the month. Minor update there. And then the multi-municipal zoning project update. This does have bigger news. We have a public event coming up. Please join us for a public engagement workshop in Crafton Park. It will be held at the stage on Wednesday, April 19th. So that's next week at 5:30 p.m. Believe they're planning to be there for several hours. We have members of council and the planning commission and the steering committee will be there with representation from the consultant. So they will start at 5:30, should be there for several hours. In the case of inclement weather, it will be held here at the Crafton Community Center. And we'll make sure that we have notices up in advance in that event in case that happens. But hopefully we have nice weather. It's April. We can be out at the park. Our zoning project is proceeding. The consultant has updates to share and discussion is encouraged from residents who would like to come and see how that's progressing and see how it might impact properties across the borough and share their thoughts and feedback. So please do come, stop by that public engagement workshop in Crafton Park next Wednesday. This event is for the residents, businesses, and stakeholders of both Crafton and Ingram boroughs, since it's a multi-municipal project.
I don't want to jinx anything, but so far we're looking at 65 degrees and sunny. So we're probably going to be at this stage.
Way too early to say. And then finally, a TFS DCNR grant application was submitted for a trail feasibility study to cover Baker's Acres, the Crafton Creekside Trail, and Crafton's Creekside property on April 5th, 2023. That grant application was submitted in the amount of $39,102.50. The total estimated project cost is $78,205. Sure that 50 cents will make or break it. So it's great that we got the application in that's building upon the master plan, Parks master plan that was done last year, and we'll keep council and the community updated once we hear about that. And I think that's all for me.
Thank you. Communication, recreation, community events, Ms. Bodenbacher.
Okay, just are my usual reminders. Upcoming our senior dinner, which is Saturday, May 6th, doors open at 4:30. Service starts at 5. It does have a Kentucky Derby theme. It's $8 per person, cash only. Please RSVP by Saturday, April 22nd, which is 2 Saturdays from now. And you can RSVP either online at craftonborough.com/senior-dinner, or you can call the borough office at 412-921-0752, extension 10. Also a reminder, Saturday, April 29th is our spring cleaning events, multiple events all in one day. We have paper shredding and medicine take back, as well as a dumpster event, as well as the Crafton cleanup day and the Crafton Heritage Flower Sale, all are on the 29th. Also, as a reminder, applications are still being accepted for vendors and food trucks for the car show and vendor fair that's being held on Saturday, June 10th, as well as the 4th of July celebration, which is obviously Tuesday, July 4th. So all this information has also been posted on Savvy Citizen if you need more information. That's it.
And
My apologies. One more thing. The newsletter did go out on April 5th, last Thursday, 2 Thursdays. So hopefully you've gotten yours. I've gotten mine.
I've actually had a couple residents ask me when we were getting it, so we have some delivery issues in other parts of town.
yes. And it is on the website, correct? Yeah, it's been uploaded and all past issues are on the website. And again, thank you to all the council members and staff that worked on that newsletter. Really informative, lots of good information and very professionally done. Commission vacancy, Mr. Chandler.
I am glad to start off again with 2 more people, hopefully to appoint. So with that, I'll just jump right into it. I have a motion to appoint Andrea Marquise to the Crafton Public Library Board as the second representative for the Crafton Borough for the remainder of the 3-year term to expire on January 31st of 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Comptello, Ms. Bullenbacher, any discussion? I do want to say that Andrea is currently on the Crafton Library Board as a outstanding member, not as a Crafton member. So Crafton gets 2 seats on the Crafton Library Board. All the rest can be done by whatever the Crafton Library decides. So she's currently on there, so she would be taking the Crafton seat. She did speak at one of our council meetings a couple weeks ago, or maybe a couple months ago, talking about the community garden and also the library. Any other discussion on Andrea? With that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
And I have another appointment or another motion to appoint Emily Babiak to the Civil Service Commission for Crafton Borough for the remainder of the 6-year term set to expire on July 1st of 2028.
So moved.
Ms. Comptello, Ms. Bullenbacher, discussion?
I just want to add to this one that we did appoint Ms. Babiak to a spot previously, I want to say even just a couple meetings ago. But due to the resignation of one of the regular board members or the regular commission members, we were able to put her into an actual commission seat as opposed to an alternate.
So this would make her seat as an alternate open and she would move into Lynn Nichols' seat.
Correct.
Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And then with the current positions, which thankfully is dwindling down now. If anybody is interested in applying for any of the current open positions or upcoming open positions, please do so at craftonborough.com/commissions. And then with that, we have on the Civil Service Commission, we will have one regular and one alternate spot. I was going to say, no, that's going to be one alternate now. This confuses me when we
Yeah,
add them in
sorry, I
there.
don't,
So
I
that's
don't
all right.
update those because I don't want to assume that they
Right.
automatically pass.
Right. So so that would be just one alternate then in that case, for the Civil Service Commission.
I'm sorry, that's two alternates now.
Correct. Two
Right.
alternates
Yep.
because Emily moved. Right. Okay. Sorry. Math has never been my strong point. Yeah, so two alternates on the Civil Service Commission. And even though it says on the agenda, one library board, we just filled that position, so that is no longer available. One recreation board opening, one regular and one alternate zoning hearing board, one planning commission opening. That is officially open now, correct?
Yes.
Yes,
As of today.
as of
Yeah.
today, we have one planning commission opening. And then upcoming, we will have 3 rec board seats open at the end of December as well. And that's all for me.
COG, Ms. Bolenbacher.
Just that the next meeting is next Thursday, April the 20th at 6:30, and it'll be in Green Tree.
Is anyone able to go? Have we?
Yeah, I will be,
Okay.
I will be attending.
Okay. Community announcements. The next council meeting will be Thursday, April 27th in 2 weeks at 7:15. The zoning update, Ms. Compitello went through that. That's again at the Crafton stage next Wednesday. The Heritage Spring Flower fundraiser, Ms. Bolenbacher also went over that. Orders are due by April 19th, so I don't believe you can just go and pick up flowers. You have to pre-order those. Spring Forward event, Ms. Bolenbacher went over that, including the senior dinner. We are hiring a public works labor. We did have a resignation of one of our public works folks. So that position is posted on the website and we are taking applications for that role. So public comment at this time, citizens may address the Crafton Borough Council on any issue. Only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Crafton will be permitted to address the council. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before the council, who may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Please state your name and physical address for the record. So I guess, Greg, you want to, okay.
I'm Greg Wozniak. I live at 1773 Bar Avenue. I just have one question about the road openings. Are any of those brick streets and how would that be handled?
Are you asking about the Broadhead project?
Any one of those that we talked about today, it sounds like there's some street work being done. There's a few of them on here.
We talked specifically about the Broadhead project and then about the Union.
Right.
The Broadhead project does include several brick streets. It includes Belvedere, it includes Cronell, and it includes portions of Park and Emily that are brick. We did have, the design's not finalized, but we have had a lot of discussions with the engineers and looked over different iterations. Those streets are going to be pretty fully torn up in order to do the work that's needed. And we don't have the finances to be able to maintain the brick, unfortunately. We do still have some grants out and the design's not finalized. So it's possible if we get more funding, we can revisit that. But at this time, we were not able to get that to pencil out, unfortunately.
We're losing all of our brick streets, guys. A big asset to our community.
Greg.
Fortunately, some of those streets are in pretty terrible condition, so not touching them wasn't an option, but we are. If anybody has extra funds,
Yeah, the cost.
bring them this way.
The cost to replace brick is 5 times the cost of asphalt. So from a taxpayer standpoint, we have to be cognizant of that.
To be fair, the brick streets also last a lot longer, so they are economical over time, but it is, unfortunately, it can be sticker shock if we can't afford to do it in the moment, and this project has to be done in the next 2 years.
Wayne, did you know? Anybody on Zoom, please raise your hand. All right. Does anybody else have anything? Oh. Okay. Elizabeth?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Sorry, I was having a little trouble hearing the mics. My name is Elizabeth Capel, and I live at 1615 Bar Avenue.
Okay.
I wanted to follow up. So we did have our roads replaced, and there was an announcement recently about the poison hemlock that has been popping up. We have walked the neighborhood. We do so frequently. We have 2 dogs. And I was wondering what the council's next steps were for assisting in that removal.
Yes, that's a great question. We are right now in conversations with the contractor, since it was the dirt that they brought in, and we have not had a response that I know of yet. Alberto, have you heard from them yet?
I spoke to their superintendent, Doug and I and him, and you can also come on next week. We're gonna go out there, walk the entire area where we see the poison hemlock and come up with a solution.
Okay.
There were some other areas too, where there's some like hard, like not a lot of grass grew, the topsoil wasn't very good. So we're gonna go ahead and try to get those areas fixed. So they'll be back. Yep.
Yep. And further, so I've learned quite a bit about poison hemlock in the last week and a half. And just to give you a little information, this is a problem across the country, anywhere that soil is disturbed. It is what is called a pioneer plant, meaning that it is the first plant that takes over when soil is disturbed. And it does have a 2-year gestation period typically. So when soil is disturbed, often you won't see it until the following year. That's why so much of it is coming up this year when the soil was placed in place last year. It is minimally harmful to touch. It is much less noxious than poison oak or poison ivy, but it can be fatal if eaten, both by pets and by humans. So that's why we put out the notice so that people are aware that it exists. There are a number of different ways to deal with it. One is pull it out. The other is actually mowing it, because if it's short, it does not flower, and so then it can't reproduce. And that is one of the key ways to get rid of it if it's in a lawn, is to keep it mowed short so that it doesn't cause a problem, and to let people know that to be aware of it in the issue. But we will be dealing with it with the contractor by next week. We'll have a more clear course of action by next week.
Alberto, did it come in the soil that they put on Bar in the tree lawn? Is that where it's located?
I mean, it's within the limit of work. I mean, it's not like a guarantee that they brought it in,
Yeah.
but it's within the areas they work. So it's an assumption we're making by saying they brought it in, but I mean, it's not, I mean, it could have been there and it got disturbed. So, but since they were here and it's popping up, I mean, we're going to work with them this week and see what we can figure out, or next week.
And I can give a little more information on that. It has actually been found on 3 different contractors' work. We found it in the backyards on Johnston Street. So we found it there. We found it up on Crafton, and we found it one other place. So it is an issue across the country. There are notices going out in Mount Lebanon, in any place that soil is disturbed. And I also just learned that most of the soil in this region, it comes from one large contractor that does all of this. And we're looking at seeing whether they're the source of this as well.
Is this something that we've had issues with in the past, or is this kind of the first time that poison hemlock has been spotted in Crafton?
I mean, as far as the reconstruction projects that I worked on, we did South Grandview, that didn't pop up there. And then Fountain Sycamore, we didn't see it. This is the first one that we've had. And then it's not down Crafton Boulevard. It's just up on Bar Avenue.
And I mean, not that we all know what's in every yard, but and no one's aware of having poison hemlock around Crafton in general in recent years. I didn't even know what it looked like.
We didn't either, and apparently it's been exploding as an invasive species in the last 5 years, literally across the country. Washington State has notices out, a number of other places, but I don't know when it was first seen in this region.
This is probably a good time to remind everyone to also start looking for lanternfly eggs and smashing them.
I just took out 7 on my willow tree on Sunday, so they are very hard to spot. You cannot, they look just like a little smudge.
It looks kind of like a little bit of mud, kind of light gray mud,
Comes off very easily.
scrapes off easily, but you have to smash it. If they just fall to the ground, they could still hatch.
You put 'em in-
Definitely easier to smash them when they are eggs than to have to go hunting down all those lanternflies after they hatch. But I'm sure we're going to have those in the borough this year because we had them proliferating last year.
You can also get a bag of hand sanitizer and scrape them into there and they will be dead. I am an expert now. I killed 2,000.
Call John for all your
Yes.
lanternfly needs.
Anything on spot and learn, 2,000 last year, every night. Oh, yeah. Okay, on that note, Elizabeth, are you okay?
Yes, thank you for that clarity. The only other thing that I would ask council to consider is potentially increasing notices when you're doing your walkthrough in areas where you're seeing it as more prominent. We spoke to a lot of our neighbors. We actually got notified by our other neighbor because my Savvy Citizen app didn't notify me. But I think a lot of people in this area don't realize what it is. So just consider another means of communication for areas that have a higher proliferation of it.
Thank you, noted, yes.
Thank you for bringing it up too. All right, anybody else? Okay. With that, it is 8:04. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone. And we have executive session after, so stay here for this. It won't kick them out forever, will it? No, you just hit it.